Good evening. The Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees special meeting for Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021 will come to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Stewart. Here. Trustee Monahan. Here. Clerk Borba here. Trustee Dorchevitz.
Here.
Trustee Kerming.
Here.
Treasurer Clinton.
Here.
Supervisor Heisler.
Here.
All present. We have a quorum.
Item B, Pledge of Allegiance. Let's have Lieutenant Dan Kudra lead us in the pledge tonight. Okay, item C are the rules and procedures for tonight's meeting. Much like last week, we are utilizing the audio conferencing platform Zoom for electronic meetings and also a traditional phone call system here. This will enable members of the public to address the public body and listen to the meeting. We are also broadcasting live and on television, and we'll be rebroadcasting this meeting at a later date. I, as the meeting host, will call for public comment during those portions of the public meeting if anybody wishes to speak. If you are on your phone, press star 9 to raise your hand. If you're on your computer through Zoom, you can click the raise hand icon. And over to my left is Bob Jenks, who is our IT director. He is monitoring the calls and questions that will be coming in, and he will be alerting me if there is anybody who wishes to speak. And as we normally do, you'll have 2 times during the meeting tonight to speak, 3 minutes allotted, and we also encourage questions and comments on individual agenda items if they are germane to that particular item. So again, if you are on your phone, your mute-unmute button is star 6, and if you want to raise your hand, it is star 9. If you are on your phone and watching us on TV, we would highly recommend that you turn the volume off on your TV because there is a pretty substantial delay between the television and what you're hearing on your phone. Also, just for everybody in the audience, please mute your phones and other electronic devices. Okay.
Can you tell us how many are on the line right now?
Okay, next is item D, approval of tonight's agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021.
Motion's made by Clerk Borba. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Monahan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is item E, approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda for the special meeting Tuesday, February 23rd, 2021.
Motion's made by Clerk Borba. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Monahan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Next is item F, public comment. Anybody in the public here in the meeting? No? Anybody online? Mr. Jenks? No hands. Okay. I'm going to move on to item G. This is item G1. We have 2 resolutions before us tonight to reinstate and transfer a brownfield plan for 47500 5 Mile Road. You may recall that in February of 2018, Plymouth and Northville Townships and the Michigan Land Bank created the Michigan International Technology Center Redevelopment Authority, also known as the MITC. Even though that entity was created in February of that year, it did not have a brownfield plan in place at that time and no approved legal status of a brownfield plan. So because there was no MITC brownfield plan in place, on September 11th of that year, the Township Board approved a plan of its own. We have our own brownfield authority. So our own brownfield authority approved a plan for what's known as Site 3, which is the southeast corner of 5 Mile and Ridge Roads. You may recall that this site was intended for the Veritas Company. That plan was approved while the property was still owned by the Michigan Land Bank, which made both environmental and non-environmental brownfield redevelopment costs eligible for tax increment financing. After the redevelopment of Site 3 stalled, we abolished that brownfield plan on December 10th, 2019, at the recommendation of the Land Bank, presuming that it would subsequently be included in the MITC's area-wide brownfield plan, which had yet to be approved by the state. However, that process resulted in the property losing its eligibility for non-environmental cost reimbursement because before the property could be included in the MITC's brownfield plan, the Land Bank sold the property to a private developer. So tonight, we have been advised by our experts, including Mr. James Harless, who I believe is on the line here tonight, to reinstate the original 9/11/18 Site 3 brownfield plan and then transfer that plan to the MITC for adoption into the MITC's overall redevelopment area brownfield plan. Those actions will protect the property's eligibility for reimbursement of the costs for non-environmental activities, which is a significant component of the future development of that site. This is an administrative and housekeeping chore. It does not cost taxpayers anything, and it helps to buffer and strengthen the overall MITC brownfield plan. With us tonight is Mr. James Harless. He is a private practitioner now, but he was with SME here in Plymouth Township for many years, and he is the consultant on the MITC Brownfield Authority. Jim, how did I do?
Good evening. Chairman Heisey, you did an absolutely marvelous job of explaining exactly what we're doing.
Okay, good night. Is there anything you'd like to add? Jim?
No, actually, other than just to clarify that properties that are in the MITC redevelopment area that are not owned by the land bank are only eligible for recovery of cost of environmental activities needed for the brownfield redevelopment. By having the brownfield plan approved while the property is owned by the land bank, as Chairman Heisey so accurately stated, it also now creates the eligibility for non-environmental activities and for the redevelopment of site number 3, which we now call MITC Parcel 13. The non-environmental costs are actually going to be a majority of the extra brownfield costs needed to redevelop that site. So it becomes very important that those are eligible, and this administrative process will restore that eligibility that was inadvertently lost in that abolishment of the original brownfield plan.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have one.
Mr. Kermey?
So in the Harless letter, parcel 13 is the same as site 3 in our motion.
Yes. Yes.
All right. And the proposed motions are lined out. Are we changing those?
No, we have a computer. Our copiers are not doing well, and so those are not lines through the resolution numbers.
All right.
We apologize for that technical glitch.
Whatever happened to the company Veritas, who was so eager to move in here?
I believe Veritas may be moving across the street to the Ridge 5 site across the street that we had sold to Hillside. They may be moving in there. I've also heard that they may be moving to Novi. Okay, any other questions from the audience? Anybody online, Mr. Jenks? Okay, Mr. Clerk?
Okay, we're going to have two separate motions.
Yes, sir.
And voting on this. I'd like to make a motion. I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees adopt Resolution 2021-03-02-13, reinstating the brownfield plan for Site 3 located at 47500 5 Mile Road, and that was originally approved by the board September 11th, 2018.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second? Second by Trustee Monahan. Why don't we do a separate vote on each?
Yes. Clerk Vorva, yes. Trustee Kermey.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
You want to do the second one?
Yes. For the second motion, I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees adopt Resolution 2021-03-2-14, transferring the brownfield plan for site number 3, located at 47500 5 Mile Road, to the Michigan International Technology Center Redevelopment Authority, MITC.
Motion is made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Kermy. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisler.
Yes.
Clerk Borba, yes. Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Harless.
You're welcome. Have a
Okay,
good evening.
you too. Next is item G2. This is Police Department purchase and upfit of 5 2021 model year vehicles. I believe Chief Tidrington and Lieutenant Kudra, do you have microphones out there?
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening.
Keep them close because I don't,
Testing.
it's not the greatest.
Is it on green?
It's on green.
Okay.
So, anyways, if the board recalls, and I know there's some new members, so to refresh your memory, the 5 vehicles that we're asking to purchase this evening were budgeted back in, I guess we had the budget meeting in November, December of last year, and the vehicles were approved. At that time, due to the fact that Ford was no longer going to make a police-rated vehicle, sedan vehicle, which is basically a Crown Vic, we had really no other choice but to look at Dodge Chargers. And that's what we brought to the board. That's what the board approved, was the purchase of, I believe, 4 Dodge Chargers, 3 Dodge Chargers, an Expedition, and a Explorer, if I recall. I'm going to turn it over to Dan here in a few minutes. But the point is, I want to make sure the board understands that this was discussed and approved by the board. Since that time, we've learned, and doing some due diligence before we went forward with the purchase, that the V8 Dodge Chargers that we thought we were going to be able to purchase were 4-wheel drive. And we just recently learned that Dodge is no longer making the 4-wheel drive V8 Dodge Charger. So really, the only option we have, and it's a good option, but it's a more expensive option, is to go back to Ford and purchase the Ford Explorers. And if you'll notice, 2 of the vehicles, good and bad news, so it's more expensive, but we're able to fund 3 of the 5 vehicles out of our federal forfeiture account. And just to remind everybody, the federal forfeiture account is really designed, the intent of the forfeiture funds are to enhance our budget. They can't supplant the budget, they have to enhance our budget. So we're very careful when we look at what we're going to purchase out of the federal forfeiture funds. And we probably, if we didn't have federal forfeiture funds, I'm not sure that I would be recommending this purchase here this evening. But because we do, and it certainly is an enhancement to our fleet, is the reason why we're requesting this expenditure this evening. I'm going to turn over to Lieutenant Dan Kudra, and he can tell you how they're made and what size wheels and all of the details, or if you have any questions. If not, we can just go on.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I think the chief pretty well laid it out there. At this time, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I have a lot of them.
Okay.
How many Dodge Chargers do we have in the fleet right now?
We have none for patrol. We do have 3 that we purchased last year, which are Detective Bureau vehicles.
They're all-wheel drive V8s?
Those are V6.
V6. All right. So the body style that we're purchasing with the Interceptors is Explorer.
Yeah, so it's a police interceptor utility. That's what the Ford people call their police version of the Explorer, but it looks like an Explorer, yeah.
All right. I want you to, generally, turbocharged engines, gasoline, don't last as long. They're not as good at durability as a V8. So you're going to have to watch pretty closely to see if next time we would purchase turbocharged gasoline engines versus reverting to a V8. Remember, 2-wheel drive, I know you don't like it, but for many, many decades we used 2-wheel drive.
I did, yes,
V8s.
Yep.
In fact, in some cases, they may handle better than a all-wheel drive.
Those of us who are old school like myself, yes, can
Yeah.
handle that. We have a lot of younger guys who I feel very comfortable with them being in all-wheel drive vehicles. And then to answer or somewhat respond to the turbocharged longevity of those powertrains, the police interceptor utilities come with a 5-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. We have had some instances, I think I can recall one or two over the years since we have gone to the turbocharged powertrains, where we have had to replace a turbo. However, that has always been covered under warranty because we very rarely run the cars past 100,000 miles. Every now and then we do. We'll have one that'll hit 102, 103, but generally we rotate them out of service before 100,000 miles.
So these that were replaced are at 70 to 80,000, right?
Correct.
And one is 53,000. Can you tell me, or 54, why the Expedition is being changed out so early at 54,000?
Yes.
And I noticed that you say it's going to get to 100.
Correct. So that particular vehicle, that is a patrol vehicle. It's a Ford Expedition SSV, which is Ford speak for Special Service Vehicle. And that vehicle runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have that vehicle loaded up with additional equipment, heavy vests, Kevlar helmets, less lethal gear, things that we would need in a critical type incident. And for that reason, that vehicle runs all the time. If the officer that vehicle is assigned to is off on vacation or in training, the sergeant reassigns that vehicle to somebody else so that it is on the road. That vehicle, I would say, averages around 5,000 miles a month that we put on that vehicle. And looking through the records before I came to the meeting, we purchased that vehicle in July of 2019. I believe we took delivery of that vehicle on July 11th. And then because of the way that our vehicle upfitter works, we can only get so many vehicles upfitted at one time. That vehicle was the last in line to get upfitted that year. It actually didn't come into service until the start of 2020. So basically over about a year, we've accrued over 50,000 miles. It's actually just shy of 55,000 miles as we speak. I checked it today.
So you're going to expect, what are you going to do with this SSV vehicle once you get the new one?
So I anticipate that by the time we get this vehicle changed over, that one will have around 90 to 100,000 miles on it. If it's still a serviceable vehicle, we can maintain that in the fleet as a pool vehicle. But usually that's getting pretty long in the tooth for a patrol vehicle. But again, if it's running, functioning, in good shape, we would retain that and perhaps transfer out, a pool vehicle that we have right now is a 2008 model year Explorer that's rear-wheel drive. The 2019 Expedition is all-wheel drive, so we would probably swap those two vehicles out.
So the other 3 vehicles that are being retired, are they being sold at auction?
Yes, they will be.
So we have an offset to the budget for the residual value of those vehicles.
I believe so. That's Ginger's area. But yes, I budgeted, I auctioned off some vehicles that were replaced last year, late last month. So we do get some money back.
And the upfitting of 10,500, that's almost 1/3 the cost of the vehicle itself.
Correct.
Can we redeploy some of the components in the old vehicles to the new ones?
So the vehicles that are being replaced, there are 2 that are the Police Interceptor sedans, which would look like a Taurus to everybody out there. And very minimal, if any, of that equipment transfers over to a Police Interceptor utility. One of the other vehicles is a Police Interceptor utility. However, it is a 2018 model year vehicle. The Police Interceptor utility, or the Explorer, was completely redesigned in 2020. So the one that we are buying to replace this one that is coming out of service is in fact an all-new vehicle. It went from being front-wheel drive based to being rear-wheel drive based. It's from the ground up a new vehicle. So again, minimal of that equipment because the dimensions are different and what have you, transfers.
Okay. Thank you.
All set? Okay, anybody else?
You just, Tom, I don't know if
I
this is
just
your
want to thank
question or...
Mr. Supervisor.
Hold on. no, Mark has.
Can you just confirm that what you originally budgeted for these vehicles, that was the same ratio of drug forfeiture versus general fund? You know what I mean?
Yes, the same number. We had planned on buying 2 vehicles out of the general fund and 3 vehicles out of the drug forfeiture fund, and we plan on doing that
Okay.
tonight.
All right,
And
thanks.
also, I just wanted to add one other thing. If we order the vehicles today, it's going to be 2 or 3 months before we get them, and then another month or 2 before we actually get them out there. If we get them done in a month or 2. So ordering them today, they're not going to be on the road for another 6 or 7 months. So by that time, the vehicles will have the average number of miles that we typically replace that. So I just wanted to clarify.
How much is going to be left in the forfeiture fund after this purchase?
We've got 3 separate forfeiture funds, but
Right.
between the 3 of them, we've got $750,000 in there. So
Yeah,
this will
I thought it was around
drop it
there.
down to the $600,000 range.
John?
Be careful that we don't become addicted to the drug forfeiture fund.
Hey, that's my line.
John?
Mr. Supervisor, thank you. Gentlemen, Lieutenant Kudra, Chief Titterington, thank you for the materials. I've read them. They're in the packet. Thank you for acknowledging the $42,700 from the Drug Forfeiture Fund. I appreciate your answering all the questions. I'd like to call the question on Resolution 2021-03-02-15.
Okay, before we do that, is there anybody in the audience or at home? Okay, then John, why don't you just make the motion?
The motion that's written on the sheet here.
Well, the motion to adopt the resolution, which I read already, number 2021-03-02-15, by reference.
Well,
you want me to-
we don't do it by reference, so we really need to, we need you to read it out. Sorry.
You want me to
The
do
bottom,
it?
bottom,
In the green.
I can read it.
I was hoping to avoid that we would be read to. I don't like to be read to.
I can read it.
I
Well,
want
you
to
can
go on
read to
record
us.
saying I do not like to be read to.
Well, then did you
And I
want
You
think
to
can
we
read
can
to
do
us.
this by reference
You could have it
in
done
order
by
to
now.
expedite, because brevity is a blessing.
We could have
We
it
could
done
have
by
read
now.
it by now.
And
Okay.
correctness is also a blessing.
Exactly.
So please read it.
Somebody.
I move to approve resolution #2021-03-02-15, authorizing the Plymouth Township Police Department to purchase and outfit 5 new vehicles not to exceed $95,000 in the general fund capital outlay and not to exceed $139,200 out of the federal forfeiture outlay, and authorizing the finance director to appropriate $42,700 to 265-300-9700.00 federal drug forfeiture capital outlay fund for the purchase of the 3rd vehicle.
Second.
Motion's made by Trustee Monahan, seconded by Trustee Kermy. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Clerk Borby, yes. Treasurer Clinton.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very good. Thank you,
Thank you
Lieutenant
very much.
Kudra and Chief. Next, we have item G3. This is proposed adjustments to the fee schedules in the Building and Planning Department. We're not voting on anything tonight, but I would like us to make a decision on these matters at our next meeting on March 9th. Tonight, we have with us Building Department Coordinator Sherry Parmelchuk and our Township Planner Laura Haw. They will be giving their respective presentations on the recommended bonds, escrow, and fee schedule updates. So as you can see here in your handout, we have the first section are the items that are requested by the building department. Sherry will handle that, although Laura may jump in at some point if you feel necessary. And then we will have the items requested by planning. And again, Laura will take the lead on that, but Sherry may have some comments of her own on those as well. Sherry is, for those of you who have not worked with her yet, has done an incredible job for us in the building department. And one of the reasons why I think Plymouth Township is so well positioned to succeed and thrive in a post-COVID environment is because of Sherry, and because of her determination, she comes in here 6:30 in the morning. Okay, well, the building is still locked at that point, so the developers can't find you. But she is a tireless worker for us, great work ethic, very innovative. You know, when we switched over to the PZE system, we did that really at Sherry's request, and she's taken that computer program now and has really expanded its possibilities and is using it almost to its full extent. And we're thrilled that it's making her life easier, our life easier. More importantly, it's providing a tremendous public service for the developers, builders, contractors, and citizens who come here to the building department every day to improve our community and improve their homes and families and businesses. So again, thank you very much. The reason why we're here tonight is because, as I said in the cover memo, our use of the PZE system over the last couple of years has shown us some additional needs within the fee schedule, and for both fee increases, but also a lot, as you'll see here, there's a lot of fee decreases, and in some cases, elimination of redundant or unnecessary requirements. So I will have Sherry and Laura take us through that, and again, thank you for your terrific service for us, Sherry.
Well, thank you.
Echo that.
Now,
Thank you.
get right in the microphone there. So.
All right, this is not going to be easy for me to be right in the microphone. Okay, the first thing that I want to say is we are not increasing the building department fee schedule. Some people were under the impression that that's what we're doing. We're talking about bonds and escrows. Bonds and escrows are something that the township holds, a trust and agency. Bonds and escrows are project specific. You cannot use someone's bond here for another project over here. Bonds are something that we take in, and what those do is provide for completion of a project. It's kind of like how we can control that project. So they put up landscaping bonds, they put up utility bonds, they put up all different types of bonds, and at the end of the project, we refund those back. Escrows are something that we take in. Escrows are to pay for services, third-party services. They pay for engineers, Spalding Decker. They pay for our planning consultants, McKenna. They pay for our legal services to Kevin Bennett's firm. They will pay for the Wayne County recording services. So again, it is not money that the township is keeping. It's trust and agency to pay for their projects. So I can get started with some of that. PZE we did go into in 2018. Stands for Planning, Zoning, and Engineering. We very much use the planning and engineering aspect and then building. My job as the project coordinator is to make sure that we bring all of those aspects together into one project from start to finish and make sure that everything we need, we get by the end of that project. There are many times in past history where we're missing documents that were needed, documents weren't recorded correctly, and so this program puts it all in one place. It tracks every dime that is in there as far as bonds and as far as escrows go. So that's kind of what we're here for today. The reason that we're doing this is we have different parts in the zoning ordinance 99. We have parts in the engineering, and we have parts in the fee schedule. We want to bring all that together under one roof for easy access by developers so they can see everything in one spot and know exactly what it is they have to come forward with for their project. So I can start with the first one being the utility escrow. Utility escrows are pretty much set for commercial jobs being 5,000, subdivisions being 10,000, and something new we're going to be doing, which is parking lot repaving, which will start at a $2,000 minimum. The reason for this is total protection for the township's water, sanitary, storm drain, and then in subdivisions or even commercial jobs, if a project does not follow through. I started here in 2007. From 2007 to 2012, there were many projects that went bankrupt. They just kind of sat there. We had no recourse to go after things to sod that, to stop the soil erosion, to stop the sedimentation, to stop the destruction of stop boxes and things like that. So this would ensure that we would have something if a developer were to walk off a job. We have some way to go and put hydro seed 10 feet in front of rear lot line, 10 feet back a curb to stop the soil from eroding down into the street and down into the storm drains or wherever it is they're going to go. It would ensure that when we have the project is complete, that we are now going back. The stop boxes are all in place like they should be, and they're not damaged. The storm drains have not been covered up by landscaping. People love to landscape over those ugly little drains that got sitting in their yard. Well, by doing that, we don't have access to it, and that's something that we need. So at the end of a project, Spalding Decker goes back out there. They look at everything. They need to make sure that everything is good to go. We get the good to go from them. We give them money back. I give money back almost every day. I am adamant about giving people their money back. And so that's kind of what we have happening on that one.
So can you reiterate that again? Because that kind of you kind of buried the lead there. So when we're collecting these bonds and escrows, once the project is complete, you give the money back. We're not hiding it or pocketing it
Correct.
in any way.
Correct. Mark Clinton will tell you how much money we give back. Every single week, we're giving money back. Yes, so like this $10,000 for a subdivision, let's say, Andover Forest, I'll use that. It's getting to a point where probably within the next year, it's going to come to a close. Andover Forest was started in 2014. We don't have a utility bond on Andover Forest, so I will not be able to give something back. Andover Forest, we should have definitely had a utility bond for back in 2014. We had so many complaints from the surrounding neighborhoods around that project of all of the soil that went over into the yards, all the flooding that went into the yards. Those homeowners were in to us all the time complaining. We would have to go back to the developer. We would have to beg him and say, please, please go out there and do this. Eventually, yes, he did, because he did want to do the project. So now we have things in place where we will not have that problem. Hello, you don't do what you're supposed to do. We're taking your $10,000 and we're going to go do it for you. We need to protect the township's residents.
Is 10,000 enough, Sherry?
Well, I would say to hydro seed, we kind of were thinking about this. Spalding Decker is the one that kind of came up with that price. I'm not good at coming up with what the cost would be. And 10,000 would be enough to hydro seed, at least, rear lot lines, front lot lines, so to speak.
Okay.
So I figured, because most of our projects here are on the smaller side for subdivision, unless in the future they come up with really large ones. But right now, what we have happening, they figured 10,000 would be enough to cover that cost.
Okay.
And it's enough to at least make them want to do something. Money talks. When you hold money against something and you hold that for that developer, they have a tendency to say, you know what, I really would like that money back. I better get this accomplished. So, will it finish an entire project? No, it won't come anywhere near finishing an entire project. And then sorry, yes?
What is the difference between, is an escrow a cash payment that they provide to the treasurer's office? And then what is a bond? And how does that work?
A bond is generally, it can be two ways. We can do a cash bond and we can do a performance bond. We have a township performance bond right on our website that they can take to their bonding company, and then they can bring the original back to us. We do that mainly for landscaping because they're large amounts. Some developers cannot get performance bonds. They do not have a credit rating high enough to get them, so they will give us cash. Some bonds we want cash only because that, again, is easy access for us. When you have a performance bond, you have to go through all of the work of cashing that in, so to speak. It's not easy access. But for like landscaping, we always get landscaping bonds. Unless it's a small project, then they prefer to give us cash. So that is something that once that's done, hello, we're going to give you that amount of money back. We're going to give you your original bond back. We're going to give you your original cash bond back. Escrow is something that is put into place because fees are paid out of it. So that's for the engineering fees, the planning fees, the Wayne County fees, the legal fees come out of an escrow account. Anything left at the end of the project, if there is money left in that escrow account, that is returned back to the applicant as well. The township can keep none of this money without providing a service, something that shows, hey, we cashed this in because you didn't follow this rules you were supposed to follow. We can't just take their money.
Okay, the first item there, the subdivision, $10,000. What does Canton and Northville Township do in that situation? What is their number?
I don't even know if they have a utility escrow. I cannot answer that. This is something that the township has. Section 23.8 under contracting requirements kind of say that we can do these kinds of things to ensure that a project is set. I have no idea what the surrounding communities do with that. Well, I've not had one person say a thing about $10,000. If you can't afford $10,000 for a subdivision, you probably should not be developing here. My personal opinion. And I have a lot of personal opinions, sorry.
I hadn't heard.
So, it's most developers know there is a certain amount of money that they have to have before they can start a project. $10,000 and $5,000 really isn't much. The $2,000 for the parking lot repaving, the reason we're doing that is because some of these big companies have now literally built on every ounce of their property between the building, the parking lot. Then they'll have their storm drain area and they'll have a little open space. But all the utilities run underneath the parking lot. So when they go in to repave, what happens, they can go in and they can damage that. So we want to start the new process where for these big repaving jobs, Spalding is out there inspecting that. They are looking at that to make sure that none of the underground has been damaged once they take it out, and then they go back and make sure it is replaced at that time. And anything that's left over out of that $2,000 will be refunded back. If it's a huge repaving project, let's take Adient, for instance, that would definitely come into more than $2,000 they would have to pay. Spalding would decide with that plan how much that would be. It would be based on the size of the job and how many inspections would be needed. Again, the whole reason for it is to protect the underground utilities.
Okay.
Any other questions on the utility escrow?
No, let's keep moving.
Okay, the hydrant meter bonds. This is something that what is happening is they come and they rent hydrant meters from us all the time. Well, we had nothing in place to protect the township for the damaged ones that were left out to be frozen, or the ones that were stolen. We were covering those costs. The township should never, ever be paying for anything. That is something that we have in the schedule here, section 3.066. No free service shall be furnished by the system to any person, firm, or corporation, public or private, or to any public agency. That is in the Charter Township of Plymouth, Water and Sewer. So we feel that we should be able to collect this. Again, we had two of them this year. One stolen and one was left out to freeze. So we need a way to say, hey, you are now renting a 2-inch hydrant meter. You're going to pay us $2,000 bond on that. You bring that meter back to us. We give you your $2,000 back. It costs us $1,840 to rebuild that meter. If it turns out that, I'm sorry, this meter is frozen, we have to replace all these parts, it's going to cost us $1,840 or less. We refund back whatever that difference is out of that $2,000. Again, that is to protect the township, so the township is not paying for someone else's.
Did we recover the cost of the damaged meters?
We did this year, yes.
So what exactly is a hydrant meter?
It's what they put on a fire hydrant to generate water temporarily when there's no water out there. You use them for flush tests. They'll use them for landscaping. They'll use them for different things like that.
It's so we can bill them for the gallons used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they put it right on the fire.
Jerry, is that what you and I saw at 5 and Ridge last summer?
They run it from DPW. Yep, we invoice them. Right now, we invoice them for $100 a month for the usage of it, and then they pay us the bond at the time of pickup, dependent upon what size meter. Then we go out and we read that every month. They're then billed an invoice for the monthly water usage, again for another $100 meter rental, should they still need it for longer. And then at the end, we do a final reading. They pay that final bill, and then we refund their money. You're welcome. Okay.
Okay.
that it for that one? Okay, engineering escrow updates. Now, engineering escrow updates, these all have to do with Spalding Decker, as being our engineers, obviously. The reason that we want to change these, we need to increase them. Right now, the current percentage for inspection fees is 3. We want it to go to 5.5. And then the actual plan review is 2. We want it to go to 3.5. The reason being is back in the 1970s, all of the requirements for Eagle, floodplain, and wetlands were all the rules and regulations were done back in the 1970s. They were basically not overly enforced until Flint. Once Flint happened, the state of Michigan turned around and put much stringent processes in place with floodplains, wetlands, and then just your actual water system. This requires a lot more review. It requires several times of having to go back and forth with the state, with the county. And the way that engineering escrows work is a project comes in, their engineer decides what that project's going to cost. So I can give you an example if you like. Engineering total, let's say for Andover Forest. That's a subdivision with 15 homes in it. They came in, that subdivision was to cost them $458,000. Well, at our percentages of the 1.5, the 3, and the 2, their engineering escrow, their first engineering escrow payment was $19,950. Well, because of everything that went wrong on that project, because of all the years it took to get that project going, all the additional review fees, they went around, had 3 more deposits that had to be made. By the end of the project, they paid $80,700. The increasing was 17.3%. So what happens is when you have to constantly go back and ask these developers for more money, they get very aggravated. They would rather pay it all up front at one time. They do not like to be invoiced. What they want is, okay, you want me to pay this amount of money, let me pay that up front. You now have that money. I do not want you to continue to invoice me.
That's surprising that with cash flow, that they'd want to pay it early.
They do. They get very aggravated the more we have to invoice them. So, and we have to keep a certain amount in there because that's how we pay for Spalding's services. And every month, Spalding sends us the invoices. If I don't have the money sitting there in that PZE bond account, escrow account, we can't pay them. And Spalding's invoices sit there. And then I got to hound them. And then I got to hound them. And then I got to hound them. And then eventually they come in and pay only because they need something else from us. And I won't let them get to the next step until they pay that. And then I back pay all of the invoices. That happens both with planning sometimes and legal as well. So Laura will get to those pieces.
So our consultants are carrying these projects
carrying
on their own dime until they get
Sometimes.
reimbursed.
Yes.
They invoice us. How do they invoice us? They invoice
They send us
on a monthly basis.
Yes.
I don't think McKenna is financing
McKenna's,
the expense. They're invoicing us directly, and then we finance it. We pay for it.
not when it's going to come out of, has to come out of an escrow. No. I've held McKenna up a couple times until we get paid. What happens is McKenna invoices, and then on their invoices, they have a special area that's for escrow draws. If I have the money in there, I can pay that. If I don't, that invoice sits there until I can collect the money. The same with Kevin Bennett's services. We have to have the money there. If the money is not sitting in that escrow account, I have no money to pay it, and the township does not carry the project.
All right, in the first sentence, it says, this is based on the estimated cost of construction.
Yes.
You use the number of $450,000. That's a very low number for cost of construction.
That's what they came in with, what their project was going to cost.
For 10 houses, they said the cost is $450,000?
$458,000.
For 10 houses?
There's actually 15 houses.
15. Well, that's unrealistic.
Exactly.
Well, then
See,
we need to, well, then maybe we're raising this because they're underestimating the cost of construction.
we have to go by what their engineer estimates. That's the way.
Yeah, but we're smart enough to know that you don't build 15 houses for $500,000.
Correct. And now, again, that was in 2014. I don't know and I don't know how they determined that figure. They have to do the complete breakdown of what they figure. They send it to Spalding to Decker. Spalding to Decker takes that figure that they give them, and then they come up with the engineering escrow, which then is sent to me, and I collect that amount of money from them.
You understand what I'm getting at is
I do
we're
understand.
raising a percentage on a completely incorrect number for cost of construction.
Well,
Is that happening regularly? Where they totally underestimate the cost of construction to get lower fees? Or I'm trying to understand, are we
okay.
fixing the root cause or are we just putting the Band-Aid on it? Laura, you know
No.
this. You get these, they come to you with the planning numbers. So would you believe 450,000 for 15 houses?
No.
Well, let's let Sherry answer the question.
I cannot tell you how they figure their 458,000. If I go down to Polytech, they figured 150,000 for the Polytech job. I can tell you that
The cost of construction of Polytech,
150,000.
which was about a $3 or $4 million job.
But this is for the engineering side of it. This
Well-
is not for an entire project.
Well, then we
This
need to
is for
change the
engineering.
word here then, because it says construction.
The cost of construction for the engineering portion of it.
No.
Spalding to Decker only does engineering. They don't do.
All right, so then we need to just change the
houses.
wording here. The wording in the paragraph is incorrect. We need to say the engineering cost for the project, the percentage is calculated on the engineering cost for the project, not the total construction cost, is what it says here is construction cost, which is not what
Well,
you're...
yes, I do see what you're saying, Chuck, but
But what?
because we had it under engineering escrows, we just assumed, I guess
Okay.
I assumed that we were talking engineering.
Well, item 3's title doesn't necessarily jive with the paragraph. We can clean
Let's
that up.
just fix it,
Yeah,
right?
But we will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all right.
I will have, actually, I will have, discuss that with
It
Jeremy.
confused me, and I'm sure it would confuse anyone else who was looking at the words.
Okay. Okay. I can do that. Do we have any other questions on why we need increases in that? We need the increase so that way we have the money that we need for all the services that are taking place.
Okay.
Okay. The next thing
So
we
let's
have.
move on.
Okay, the landscape, what we do with landscape bonds, the landscaping is determined at the time of Planning Commission approval, and then we take a bond, and most of them do performance bonds, which is a paper bond, which we get the original of. It does not have an expiration date, and we hold on to that until the landscaping is complete and inspected. Once that is done, we give that bond right back to them. So that's what we have happening there. And then we have payment in lieu. Payment in lieu are something that we have happening for sidewalks, landscaping, amenities. Right now, we've collected nothing for amenities. This is for projects that putting that sidewalk in, other than at entrance main streets, the sidewalks always have to go there, but interior sidewalks. They're either not going to look right on the project, they're sidewalks that are going nowhere, the developer just decides he doesn't want to do it, so they give us the money. We then it goes into a special account, and then from that account, we can then, as a township, put sidewalks on main roads wherever we want, whatever needs to be done with sidewalks, but it has to deal with sidewalks. The same with trees. When people take down trees, Webasto, for instance, took down all kinds of trees. They had to give us had to replace 150 trees. They chose to actually replace trees. So they planted 150 trees throughout the township in various places the township decided they want them. Some people want no part of that. I'm just going to give you the money. You go plant the trees wherever you want to.
Sorry.
Yep, go ahead.
So this issue comes up a lot in front of the Planning Commission, particularly the payment in lieu. So when the project is, they're in the concept phase, do we clearly communicate that to them, that they're expected to provide sidewalks? Because a lot of times the question comes up, why do I need to put in a sidewalk? It doesn't make sense there. And then we have to explain, even if you don't do that, you still have to pay an equivalent amount into the sidewalk fund.
Yes, I believe Laura does a very good job at that.
Okay.
Mhm. Lets them know.
At the early onset of the project.
Mhm. Yeah, because most projects, when they come in, Laura can change my statement on this if she wants. When these projects come in, the developer pretty much knows whether they want to put sidewalks in or not.
Yeah.
So-
At that,
Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, no
Go ahead. So for example, Verona Park is the
Yeah.
the tiny subdivision on Beck. And we had originally asked for them to put sidewalks in, but since it's basically a cul-de-sac with houses on it, they said, really, it's counterintuitive, and so I believe in that case, we had them pay into the sidewalk fund.
Right.
The sidewalk fund right now is a separate line item in the budget. We worked with Ginger to create that. I think right now there's about $57,000 in the sidewalk fund.
It came up in the planning commission last meeting with, what's the name of that street again?
Plymouth Oaks Boulevard.
Yeah, where the lot on the corner is being developed, and the developer said it doesn't make sense to put a sidewalk in, which it wouldn't. It would be a sidewalk to nowhere. But by implication, he was surprised that we said, well, you'd have to still make a payment in lieu, or at least he pretended to be surprised.
Yeah, I found that odd because it was in our review that he should do payment in lieu.
Okay, I figured it was.
Okay, any questions on item 5?
Will you go back to 4? How do you calculate the bond for 4?
because what the,
No, how do you calculate it? What is the math?
when Planning Commission approves their landscaping, they have to provide us from a landscape architect a line item per item, what it's going to cost to install that landscaping. We either accept that as being realistic, or if it's unrealistic, we make them supply a second one, and then we take a bond for that amount.
So if it's a $100,000 landscaping job, you take a bond for $100,000
Oh, yes, we've got bonds.
for 100%.
100%. 100%.
And that includes any hydro seed, mulch, the irrigation system, everything for the complete landscaping.
How often do you have to execute on those bonds?
Well, I've been here since 2007. We just did our first one last week. We have a project who just failed to come forth with what they needed to do, and the letter went out last week, and so we're waiting to see what happens. It went to the bonding company. Kevin Bennett's office sent it out. So most people do not want that to happen. It hurts their rating. It's the last thing they want to do. And we gave this contractor plenty of options to either extend his bond, to hurry up and get the items done by the end date, and he chose to do neither. So we did take the next step.
Okay.
Okey doke. Recording fees. What we have started now, and this is absolutely an amazing thing, we use SimpliFile, which is a program where I can record, or the township can record, directly with Wayne County. I do it online, right from my desk. And this is really a nice thing, because before we had to send people down there, they have to stand in line, and then they're rejected umpteen times, and it's extremely aggravating. Now I get rejected in my desk, but at least I haven't left the office. So, and eventually you get to a point where you understand what they want, and sometimes you never do. But we are getting documents recorded. And this is something that was falling through the cracks, and we were missing a lot of documents. And without those documents being recorded, they're absolutely useless. And these recorded documents are things we need to protect the township utilities. It's giving us rights to go onto property and maintain those utilities. So I do water main easements, sanitary easements, we do PUDs, we do CHOs, we do anything. I can record anything except master deeds. They don't allow that because of the numbering system that they have.
So you've streamlined it.
Oh, we've streamlined it beautifully, and it's absolutely wonderful.
And with COVID, the timing could not have been better for us.
Correct.
Because we had developers who could come in, we could electronically transmit everything. Because right now, I don't even know who's there at the county to collect all these
They are
things.
doing wonderful right now. They are within 1 day of recording right now. They have caught,
They've caught up.
They were like 45 days behind.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And now they have really really picked up the pace down there. Well, anyways, we need an escrow for that. And the reason we do is because for us to record it, we have a $35 administrative fee for the township to do the work, and then there's the recording fee. The county has a, depending on the document, a per-page fee, and then Simply File charges $3 a document. Doesn't matter how many pages it is. So, and everybody is willing to pay this to us. They were like, oh, please, here, it's yours. You get this done, and then whatever is left over, we refund back to them. Because everyone is so grateful not to have to go down to the county. So that is, any questions, anything that I presented? If not, I'm turning it over to Laura.
Okay, first of all, Bob Jenks, was there anybody on the phone paying attention? No hands, no buttons, no nothing? Okay. So Laura, do you want to why don't you just stay there and then, but Sherry, don't go away because we need the color commentary. That's very interesting. Okay, you're on.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad that we are taking the step tonight. The state of Michigan, with the redevelopment ready communities, recommends that municipalities review their planning and building fee schedules yearly. So since it's been since 2017, this is a proactive step for the township. The first planning item is the land combination division recording escrow. So just as Sherry was explaining, when land combinations are approved or divisions are approved at the township, they need to be recorded. These are smaller documents, 10 pages or less. Before, we heard time and time again that individuals, often homeowners, were having difficulty recording these documents with Wayne County. So by having Sherry record those now, it's a much more streamlined process. It's a small escrow amount of just $100. And I think more importantly is the fact that we have confidence that these documents are recorded, because the planning department, the assessing department, the building department, even engineering, we keep getting into these issues where we find a document wasn't recorded from 10, 15 years ago. And it really requires us to do a lot of research to track down the right paperwork for that. So this will at least prevent issues for those in the future in these positions. Are there any questions on land combination division escrow?
So that was 0, now it's 100?
Correct. This is a new process that we're implementing. Before, it was not taken on by the township. All right, the next is the planning, legal, and engineering escrow. So we currently have this established in the fee schedule. It's $1,000 for each planning, legal, and engineering. We are recommending that that would be increased to $3,000 each. It's very important to note that these fees are not required on every project. They may only come into play for certain projects that are a larger scale or maybe have more complex legal documents. So I would say the majority of projects do not have these escrows, but allowing us to go to the $3,000 will make it more seamless for developers. And really the first thing when they come into the planning department, they want to understand the timeline and they want to understand all the fees that they need to pay. So if we can provide them with the $3,000 and we don't have to come back to them, it's a better situation.
So like Henry Ford Hospital, would that be a good example?
That is a great example of legal fees, changes to the PUD contract, meetings with them, consultation.
Just out of curiosity, if you run out of money in the legal fund, can you borrow money from the engineering fund to pay? So these are 3 separate line items.
Yeah.
And if you have too much in one, you have to refund it. If you don't have enough in the other, you have to invoice more.
Correct. They're all individual items. And a lot of that also comes with the Gadsby, the changes. Different account numbers had to be created. Things had to be moved around certain ways. And you can never take something from, like I say, one project and use it for a different project. Now, we can't do that. Everything has to show the invoices that go with that. With every single escrow account, every invoice is attached to that. So so I can always run those if need be. There was $1,000. These are all the invoices against that $1,000.
That's a lot of work.
No, well, it is, but it isn't with the PZE process. It works just like that.
When did PZE become available? Not when we bought it, when it became available.
Oh, that I can't answer. I
And
know
who's the company that owns it?
BSNA. It's part of the building module.
Oh, so it's a module in
Of
BSNA.
yes, module of the building department. We went on in 2018, but I know Novi had been using it for years before that.
I mean, BSNA is a municipal software management program that's been around since the 1990s. I remember it when I first started out, and it was only adopted here, I believe, in 2015.
BSNA was
BSNA in the accounting department, and then it migrated into your shop in
building
2018.
actually had it here since 2004.
BSNA?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
BSNA, but there was a standalone module. They weren't integrated .NET. I actually started using BSNA in 1997 when I was in Northville Township.
But it wasn't in the treasurer's office at that
No.
time. Not
Treasurers,
here.
no, they were on AS400.
Right.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah, the AS400.
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
That's like
Well,
Pong.
you know, the software tools are one thing, but you have to have the process associated with the software tools is ready as well. Even though the tools were here, like when we got here in 2016, although tools were available to you, but these processes I know did not exist in terms of setting up escrow accounts and bonds, refunding them on a timely basis. None of those processes exist. These processes have been
That is
cleaned up so significantly, it's beyond belief.
That is due to this board.
You mean recorded at the county?
A lot of things were not recorded.
Okay. Continue, please.
The next item is a landscape observation and report fee. We are recommending a decrease to this. So this fee is triggered when a project is requesting its C of O from the building department. A landscape inspection is required. So for instance, Burger King on 5 Mile is finished with their construction and their remodel. They've added their new landscaping. They need someone to come out and inspect it. Currently, it is $700 plus $30 per impacted acre. Since we've implemented PZ&E, the process for this has become completely streamlined. We share records now with the building department for this, and we created an application that didn't exist before. We have a review template and an internal tracker as well. So because of these efficiencies, the township's time allocated to this is reduced, and so we are recommending a $200 reduction to $500 plus $25 now per impacted acre.
Okay.
What's a landscape observation? That's when you go and inventory the trees and stuff like that?
Yeah, so when a project is requesting their C of O, they've installed their landscaping, then the township needs to go out and inspect and make sure.
That it meets the drawing. You're checking the drawing to the as-built, essentially.
Yes, and the health of the plants.
That's why it needs to take place between May 1 and October 31st. We have to make sure that the plants are alive and doing well.
Yeah, not dormant.
So if they're planted in the fall, you come in the spring.
Correct.
Yes, sometimes the landscaping may be partially done, and then it may go a whole nother year until the applicant is, or the developer is ready for that final review. Okay, this next item, lot line modification. This is a very rare application that we see in the planning department. We are recommending that it be reduced to 400. It's more similar to a simple combination, and because of the straightforwardness and rarity, we feel 400 would be more appropriate. I think maybe there's been one in the past 4 years, and it was very, very simple.
Okay.
The Planning Commission sign review, this is a new fee because of the ordinance change a couple months ago. The Planning Commission now reviews signs in the Industrial or TAR District, the Technology and Research District, when they have a non-masonry sign base. So it's a very quick review, but it does require some administrative fees.
Okay.
That would also apply to a pizza place that puts a sign up on the top of their across the front of their building?
It depends where the pizza place was located. If it's in the
Ann Arbor Road corridor.
Yes, if it's in the Ann Arbor Road corridor, it has to go to the commission. Otherwise, it follows the building permit process. The next item, addition to existing buildings, we are recommending this be removed. It's really redundant. I think it's just carry over from the past fee schedule. The application's either going to fall under administrative site plan or site plan review.
Okay.
The next is the cluster housing, residential unit development, or planned unit development review when it comes to this body, the Board of Trustees. Currently it's $1,600 and there's no distribution to planning and engineering services for the report materials to the board. And we are recommending that that be reduced to $1,000 and divided as $300, $350, and $350.
So what McKenna and Spalding to Decker were doing that for free before? You said there was no previous distribution?
Correct.
At $1,600, so you were doing it gratis?
It was usually
Or invoiced it in the hourly rate to the township?
invoiced hourly unless it was covered under, let's say engineering was here under retainer for something else.
All right, the engineering retainer is only $500 a month. Oh, all right, so
So
good, we're recovering.
We were
what we're doing.
probably eating it, yeah.
Pardon?
But yeah,
raised it?
we were eating it, the cost,
Yeah.
probably. Okay.
Good catch.
Administrative review for major projects, it's $2,500, recommending be reduced to $2,000. It's really not accounting for smaller projects. So for instance, there's been some small facade and parking lot improvements in the industrial district. Those don't require engineering review. Recommend that a smaller fee be applied. And then similar to the last item, other planning and zoning applications, $2,500 to $2,000 to just better scale to smaller projects. So this may be a Class A nonconformity, a use variance, usually not a full site plan review.
Can you give us an example?
A Class A nonconformity would be the Planning Commission's review of Gray's Greenhouse.
Okay. Okay.
So that costs the applicant $2,000 irrespective of the amount of labor that it took to do that work? That's a fee.
Correct. It's a flat fee, yes.
Okay.
So if it was 1 hour, it would still be $2,000. If it was 25 hours, it would still be $2,000.
Correct.
On a small business, 2,000 is quite a bit, but
We do have this is for, this is for other planning and zoning applications, but we do have an administrative review minor fee that's $350, and a lot of the small projects fall under that for businesses.
Okay. Anybody else for Sherry or Laura?
yeah, I have a couple of things. The waiver we made for COVID to allow restaurants to easily set up outdoor dining, is that still in effect?
No.
And what are we charging them to do that?
It is not in effect. It expired in November. No one came forward to even want to extend it for the winter hours. I don't know if you guys are going to do that again this year. And there really wasn't a large fee. I don't think there was any fee with it. It was free. They just had to apply, show us a plan, so we knew that it met egress and things like that.
So how many applied? None?
I think there were 5.
Trying to think of who.
Yeah, you had Zach's, you had that gluten-free place. I can't think
Shimmy
of her
Shack?
name.
Shimmy Shack, Zach's.
So you don't anticipate that they will
No.
need it? in the
Shimmy
month of
Shack,
Mar-
Shimmy Shack may apply because they're such a small place. Zach's probably won't. I know pre-COVID that Leo's Coney Island here was looking at more of a permanent indoor-outdoor structure, a very heavy tent material where they could basically run almost year-round. But that would have been a totally different animal. They would have had to come to probably to the Planning Commission for approvals on that, because that would be more like a permanent structure, semi-permanent.
So since the planning department and the building department are our major windows on the world for economic development, I'd like you to consider doing a customer satisfaction survey. I don't know how you do it, whether you do SurveyMonkey or something, because I'd like to see what your customers think of what you're doing. What do you think of that?
It's a good idea.
You don't want to do it?
That's up to you. It depends on what is involved in that, what I would have to do to set that up. I've never done something like that, so I would have
So maybe you wouldn't set it up, maybe somebody else would.
Okay.
But building is really important, and planning. And oftentimes the users are typically not going to give you direct feedback for fear of reprisal. But if we hear what they really think we should do confidentially, it may help our operation. Most companies and businesses do customer surveys, satisfaction surveys on their primary windows to their customer occasionally. I don't think we've ever done it. So it's something to think about for innovation.
Yeah, something to think about.
It's something to do.
I had a conversation this morning with Orion Township. They have a developer feedback form as
What-
part of
what is it
their
called?
process. A developer feedback form when projects are complete.
But we need to measure, have some way to measure how well we're doing, especially since economic development is so important.
I would say most of your developers would probably not like us.
Well, that's not
They call
that's
me-
not a good sign.
They usually call me the complaint, so, because you're being too hard on them.
I mean, I don't give an inch. When we got these rules, this is what you got to do, this is how we need to get you to closure. A lot of times they are not happy with me at that moment in time, but we eventually get what we need.
Well, you're making me nervous by those statements. Maybe we do need a satisfaction survey.
Glad you,
I don't know. They may, but I think you'd be surprised that people may show a little bit of frustration during the process, but I think if you, overall, I think they would be pleased with the fact they understand the process. That's the problem. That's when people get really frustrated, when the rules change every day on them.
Well, one thing that we do get a lot of compliments of is our emailing system, because man, I'm on email all day long, and I literally bullet point to these people what they need to do. They love that, because it gives them the list that they can just check off,
Right.
and they really do like that part.
That's manually generated, or it's done by the software?
No, I manually generate that all the time. Because each project has its own requirements. There is not a fit, one thing fits all. It depends on the project, what it is they're doing, and what they have left outstanding. We are in constant email with Spalding Decker, planning. A lot of times Kevin Bennett's in on these emails as well. And these guys get bullet points, exactly what they need to do to get them to the next square. Sometimes they are sheer frustration, but by the end, we get everything we need. They get back everything they need, and then I think they are happy to be out of town. Move on to the next spot.
Okay.
Anything else?
Very good. So it will be my intention that we will put this on next week's agenda for the March 9th agenda. And Sherry, if you could work with me tomorrow what I'd like to do, I think the best thing to do, maybe we'll talk to Kevin Bennett as well, is turn this suggestion list into a series of amendments that we can then adopt, and then you will have something in writing that can be somehow incorporated into the fee schedule, I'm looking at maybe an addendum of some sort that you guys can point to. In the
Which
future.
ordinance will it be part of?
The current fee schedule. The fee schedule is not an ordinance. It's
Oh, okay.
it's a policy basically that we amend and adopt from time to time.
It's authorized by the zoning ordinance, probably other ordinances also, and it permits the township board to amend the fee schedule by resolution from time to time.
And we have a copy of the resolution that we used in 2017. We're going to just update that. And that one was done pretty much by reference because we had done so many at that point. If you recall, there were many different changes, so we had to adopt. We really adopted them not only by reference but also by specific page and section as well. I don't think that we'll have to go into that much detail here. This might be more in the way of an addendum, but we'll work on that tomorrow. Okay.
Mr. Supervisor?
Sir, yes.
Just one
John?
quick comment.
Yeah.
As a practicing attorney who has had builders and construction people that I don't bill them time for because I have been waiting for my chance to say how deeply I appreciate you, Sherry Palmarchuk. You are meticulous, you are congenial, and you are thorough from A to Z. And you are, if Supervisor Heisey had a employee of the month or employee of the year, I think you've done an outstanding job. And I hear it from the other end as a private practice attorney. And you deal with a lot of men in construction and building projects. And I admire you and I deeply thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
It's not what you told me.
All righty. Thank you, Sherry. Let's move on then to the next item. I believe this is G4, award of upgrade for the boardroom sound system, which is desperately needed. Mr. Vorva.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to use my microphone? Because I don't think that's
Can you hear me?
I can, but I don't think anybody at home can hear you.
This is why we're doing it.
Take mine.
This was staged. Thank you very much, trustees and supervisor and treasurer. This has been a long time coming. You know, we came in and we had this system. There had been some upgrades done in the past, about 2015. We've had to do some updates when there were failures in components, and we had to buy new microphones, new batteries. And even though we did those kinds of things and trying to make the system work, it just doesn't live up to the type of quality that I think our audience at home and here deserve, and for the rest of us too. We need to communicate with our residents, and so this has been a long time coming, and so it's taken a while to put together a good project. We had 3 elections last year that we had to get through. We had audits we had to do this year, so it was difficult to get people in, have them review the system that we have and make proposals for changes. And we did that. We had 10 people come in and review the system, and initially, and then we had 6 bids come in that I thought were good bids from good companies. And of course, we have funds available from the public education and government fees called PEG fees. This is all part of the Section 611 of the Communication Act, where we capture these fees from the cable companies, and we're able to use it for this type of situation, which enhances our ability to talk with the public and use our public access channels on cable TV. And so I want to thank also Treasurer Clinton and Trustee Dorshevitz for helping me review the bids that came in. I also sought information from surrounding communities about these companies that have made bids and got their input on them. And so with that, I'm willing to say that we should make the award tonight in the amount of $55,801.22 to Tel Systems Audio and Visual Sound System Company. They are out of Ann Arbor. I know one of their main sales representatives lives in Canton, so they do a lot of work with U of M and other communities around here, as did some of the other companies also. So they finished in the top 3 of review by all 3 of us, and we think that they will do a good job. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to.
So what are they going to do for us?
They're going to give us new microphone systems. They're going to update the components in the control room, which is woefully needed also. At first, we thought we could just get new microphone system, but the systems that were in there are 15 years old. And so in order for them to say that, hey, this is going to work and it's going to work well for us, we had to do an upgrade in that. And so fortunately, we have a good amount of money, about $250,000 in the PEG fee fund, which is a restricted fund. And so we'll be able to have new microphones and have all the components back there to make it work, both when we're doing Zooms, telephonic type communications with the public. And so this should be a really enhanced system for us.
Will the microphones be stationary or?
They're going to be stationary for the podium there, but we have portable ones for this type of situation where we're having to make different configurations. So we're going to have enough for that, and the ones on the dais will be fixed in place. They'll be low profile, and so that they're not in your face when the public is viewing you, either from here or from the TV. And they're supposed to be of the quality that allows a good projection from their point out to you. So even if you leaned back, you should get good reception on them.
What about the podium?
The podium's going to have a fixed microphone also.
What about the cameras? Anything new with the cameras?
Right now, we did nothing different with the cameras because that seems to be adequate. Although our engineer has said that this camera used to be over here, and we might put it back there for his use. Why it was moved over there, we don't know. But it used to be over here. He thinks that it should be there. So that's something that we might do. Was here, right? Maybe it was. Yeah.
Will the new system compensate for the acoustics and reverberation in this room because of this tall ceiling?
This is a real problem. Several people brought this up, and I'm glad you did and other people did too. And this is just a design that is not really conducive to, good acoustics. And even though I discussed that with all the vendors, and they said, this kind of is what it is. Hopefully with a better microphone system, you'll be able to hear better here and at home. They'd have to change the structure of the room in order to get better acoustics. With this all bouncing up off the ceiling here with a double vaulted ceiling, it's just not conducive to good acoustics.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
Why are we spending $66,000 when the budget, why are we like 20% over?
Thank you very much. A very good question. And appropriately, Trustee Dorshevitz noted when he was reviewing these bids that all of the bids said that we had to do certain things. We had to have our conduits, our cabling all okay. What if they run into a problem? These are soft costs that may run to the township's requirement, and he suggested that we have some extra money put into that just so that we wouldn't have to come back to the board and ask for more money to handle these soft costs.
They're going to pull some cable. They have to pull a cable run, or
Will these companies do that, or we have to get our own contractor to pull cable?
Well,
we have to do our.
They will either do it or they have someone that does it for them.
So,
It's a contingency.
right, so it's a 20% contingency.
Yes.
It wasn't really the percentage. It was, put in a $10,000 placeholder. You don't have to spend it.
Right.
But put it in a placeholder for contingency.
I could not understand on here how much was hardware and how much is labor. Can you help me with that?
Yes,
In this
as a
bid.
matter of fact,
What is
I
hardware?
had a
What is
list that was broken down. You're talking about 18,000-ish is going to be labor and the rest is hardware.
I don't see that number on here anymore.
Yeah, and it's broken down. I'll send you the breakdown.
Installation, 7,900, programming, 4,900, so that's labor.
Yes.
Miscellaneous expense of 1,300. All right, I understand now. So it's not just one line item. It's-
Right.
Okay, any other questions for Jerry?
I'd like to make a motion.
Well, you want to do it?
Yes. I move to adopt Resolution 2021-03-2-16 to award the sound system upgrade contract to Telsystems Audio and Visual Solutions Company in the amount of $55,801.22 and request that the Finance Director to appropriate from the PEG fee restricted fund balance an amount of $66,000.
Made by Clerk Forma, is there a second?
Second.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Kermy?
Yes.
Trustee Monahan? Trustee Treasurer Clinton?
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Dorshevitz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Very good. Thank you, everybody. That's why we need a new phone, new sound system. Okay, public comment limited to 3 minutes. Mr. Jenks, anybody on the line? No hands, no star 6, star 9s, nothing, right? I'm just trying to be patient here. There's a hand, see?
Just testing.
Was that you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Bob's messing with the system. All righty then. Okay, we're going to move on to board comments real quick. Next Wednesday, we're going to meet again. So I appreciate everybody's time because it's been, this will be 3 weeks straight, and I do appreciate that. But we got a lot of work to do here.
Next Wednesday?
No, I'm sorry. What did I say? March 9th?
Wednesday.
March 9th? Next week?
You said Wednesday.
You said Wednesday.
Okay, well, it's next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Whatever. Well, so what's the date? March 9th?
March 9th, my
Okay,
daughter's birthday.
so it's March 9th, which is next Tuesday. Laura Haw has the annual planning program that will be self-explanatory at that time. We'll have the fee amendments on the agenda for approval. Pat Felrath has the PRV project bid award. We will have the water delinquency ordinance first reading. We've got all the materials we need on that. And then I would hope that the bulk of our meeting will be to discuss and review the household hazardous waste RFPs. Those will be due Thursday at 10 a.m. Sarah Weissel will go through the responses. We're not expecting more than 2 or 3. She will summarize both of them immediately that afternoon so we can get it into the agenda. So time is of the essence for us on that. We'll get that to you. It'll be part of your board package. And then next Tuesday, we can go over those in greater detail. And
Is a
again,
decision required on Tuesday?
well, you know, I think I've drafted in my cover memo for next Tuesday. We have 2 options. We can either just do discussion only, but I've also drafted a proposed motion where we could award the bid to a specific company subject to final approval subject to final contract approval by the board. Because I'm not expecting that we're going to have any contracts in hand. And I would like the flexibility. If we can do it in a week, that would be great. But I'd like the flexibility to be able to meet with a vendor. If we can approve a vendor next Tuesday based on what we know, if we can still work with that vendor, that preferred vendor, to try to work out a better deal or a different deal than what we've been used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Take your time because we had one in October, so
Yeah,
there isn't that huge urgency. If we can get a better process or a better price, take your time.
Yeah, but I'd like to, at some point we have to reset and we have to go back to, the May schedule has been very popular and people are used to it. So let's just see what we get. Let's see what kind of responses we get, because if they're going to come back with these really high prices per vehicle that we were looking at a few weeks ago,
$100 number?
$100 a car, then I'm thinking we may need to make some tough decisions on revamping it. So maybe every other year, we've had some other unique ideas, maybe like we could have a truck of our own where we would collect it and then we would drive the truck over there, or several trucks, or get more organized with the HOAs, maybe charge a fee. But, if I came in with a $20 bill, it's like I said at the last meeting, if I have a can of paint, I'm not going to pay $20 to throw away a can of paint. I'm going to throw it down the drain, which is not what we want people to do. So you have to weigh the cost benefit of all of that. But we'll have that discussion next Tuesday based on what we get from the vendors. So that would be it for March 9th. Jerry, all set? All set. Bob is all set? Good. John?
We have a Plymouth Township resident, former trustee, Jack Dempsey, and his brother were featured in an article on Michigan history with a legacy of Governor William Milliken and Gerald Ford. Only subscribers get this, and now it's in all the bookstores across Michigan. But the author has roots here in Plymouth Township, and I commend this to everyone's reading so we know our legacy.
Did Jack write the story, or is the story about him?
No.
It's about him. Oh, good. Okay. Audrey?
Yeah, just a shout out for the COVID vaccines for seniors. If you haven't seen our supervisor's post or my post on my Facebook page, anyone in Wayne County who is 65 years or older who would like to join the Wayne County vaccination waitlist can visit www.canton.michigan.org/1277 and sign up. That might help you get your vaccination a little sooner. Thank you.
I got an earful from people about the call-in system of last week that was a total failure, but we couldn't fix that in Plymouth Township exactly. A couple of things on the park, dogs in the park. I'm willing to help work on that project so that we can try that.
Okay.
And the concrete pad redeployment, I'm willing to work on that also, whether it's basketball hoop or something else. The other item is our billboard contract. Do we have any more billboard space as part of that original deal? And if so, we'll have to think of something creative for the board's benefit as part of these billboards that flash. The township gets a certain amount of time. It used to be 2 weeks a year or something like that. So we can put something there that's useful, only if it's useful.
Well, we have to have something to promote. I mean, last year, in 2020, we did run once the kind of generic Plymouth Township is a great place to live, something like that. But you have to have something to promote. So hopefully we'll have things that we can talk about this year with COVID.
So at least the other people can percolate up ideas. The police department may have something, or the fire department. There may be something that could be useful.
Okay.
So let's think about that. DDA, which we're considering disbanding or dissolving their fund, before we do that, we may want to think about some beautification at the interchange of Ann Arbor Road and I-275.
Yeah, we're not disbanding the DDA. Mark and I met with the attorneys from Miller Canfield, and the cons outweighed the pros substantially. Okay. So I was going to give you an update on that at our March 23rd meeting, because I'd like to, we can have up to 12 members on the DDA, and so I'm going to recommend that we appoint 4 new members to the DDA.
4 additional members? Additional
members, yeah, to really beef it up, because we've had one member who has resigned, and we've had some issues trying to get quorums for the DDA the last few meetings. In fact, we had to cancel the December meeting because we didn't have a quorum. So we need more committed members on that body.
All right. Well,
but what I'd like to do as part of any landscaping, streetscaping, or whatever at the intersection is we have to find out, and Jeremy Schroet's been very diligent about this, we need to find out exactly what does MDOT intend to do over the next 4 years
Oh,
with
that's
their,
right. Yeah,
with
they
their
got-
freeway
They
project.
might be tearing it up.
Yeah, we don't want to, but we'd like to, if need be, I wouldn't mind giving MDOT, matching some MDOT money to plant some more trees out there and beautify it. I know they did that in Livonia.
Well, we could get some synergy. If they're tearing it up,
Yeah.
that we could contribute in their contractor, we get some,
Right,
their benefit of their contractor, but do our add-ons.
right.
Canton Township, did they do that themselves down
I-
there at Ford Road?
I think all of that extensive work they did many years ago, I believe that was all part of their DDA.
The Ford Road?
Yeah, the Ford Road
Activity.
DDA. Theirs is linear like ours. So, okay?
All right, well, the
Yep.
spring is coming. It's time to percolate up some ideas.
Yep. Mark Clinton, anything to percolate?
No percolating here. I
Okay.
declare the 2020 tax season over.
Yay.
Yesterday was the last day that people could come in and pay taxes. I do accept postmarks, so things will trickle in over the next week or so, as long as it was postmarked prior to March 2nd. That'll be accepted. Out of $74 million that we assessed, we collected 98.9% of it, which was phenomenal. It's the highest collection rate we've had. I think as things trickle in, we'll get to the 99%, but it was pretty amazing, with the year that we've had in terms of COVID, et cetera. It's the highest collection rate that I've seen.
How's the mail been? Slow, better?
We went through a period around, December, January where it was awful. And now I think we're roughly 2 to 3 days behind. The postmarks that we're getting were from 2 to 3 days ago. So they're fairly caught up.
Will you be able to send us something that tells how many parcels commercial and how many parcels residential was turned over to the county for collection?
Sure, I could do that.
Just to kind of get an idea.
Yeah.
And some people have asked me, said, well, I want to pay my taxes in person. If they do that, they can come to the front door, or they were able to come to the front door and call in?
They could have last week, but it's over.
Yeah, now,
Yeah.
right, but last week they could.
Oh, we've been open.
Because I've been telling people to do that, and people
People
were
can come in
somehow
here
intimidated by the sign or something out there. All right, so they were able to do that.
No, they can come in anytime. We prefer that you work remotely as much as possible with us because we offer so much online now that people don't have to come here, but I know that some people want that receipt in their hand, or they want to pay cash, which we'll take.
Right. Also, one other statistics, I want to know how many are paid with credit card and paid the fee, the 3% or whatever. I'm curious to see how that's developing with time.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe somebody would pay 3%, but
They do.
Okay, all set, Mark? Very good. I need a motion to adjourn. Mr. Clerk. Motion's made by Clerk Vorba to adjourn. Is there a second? Seconded by Trustee Monahan. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.